Hello, welcome to the Untitled Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. I'm joined by Mr. Colonel Cabbage, or as Charlie's his real name. Hello, Charlie.
Hey,
How are you?
I am great, thanks. Yeah, pretty good. How you
Good.
doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very excited today. If you guys have joined us live, today we are talking about the Amulet of Destiny from Age of Sigmar. It's an artifact from the core book, and it's a core artifact that you're able to take on everything. Charlie's, or the title of the show is The Amulet of Destiny. Chestiny?
Chestiny. That's it. It's the artifact when you open the chest. It's always that one.
So, what? So, yeah, Amulet. The
Oh, it's an
Amulet
amulet
of
again.
Destiny is too good. And if you're watching this back on YouTube or listening to it as a podcast, there is going to be in the show notes a slide link you guys can check out. Also, if you watch, but the whole thing is filmed in front of the Twitch audience, the Honest Wargamer gang, the scariest group of mofuckers you ever want to hang out with in the world. What up? Twitch chat. That includes people like MJ Pegasus, one of our mods, Scott B, Knigget, our meme master, Winner Dave, who didn't kill some gargants yesterday, Nogel Matthew,
Oh,
the fund machine, yeah, Pragmatic, Nemesis Zandrek, Pexu. I use Glowy Houtsit on my trunk boss, but Amulet Destiny doesn't slow down the game. Total G, thanks for subscribing. So there might be some hot takes, and they'll come straight from the Twitch chat because it's full of legends like W. Soren and Jim Connius and
yeah,
James
give us a
Wilson.
hot takes.
Yeah, hot takes all day. Like Lee Bromley says, I'm so bored of the amulet. Anyway, Charlie, you're like this is a lot of this work has come from you. Well, 98% of this work has come from you. Talk to me, like, if you got like a throwaway line you want to say at the start before we get into the nitty gritty, the detail.
Maybe I'll just confuse people and say 33% equals 50% equals 150%.
That's maths. That's
Yeah,
science, and that's
that's
number wang.
maths.
Yeah, that's. Thanks, Jog, for resubscribing. Jace Harper says, first time I've been able to tune in live in ages. Don't disappoint. I
Ooh, buddy.
promise we will. I
Yep.
promise we will. So wait, 33% equals 50% equals 150%. In 43
Yeah.
minutes, you're going to know what that means. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm hoping so.
Awkward. All right, let's bring up this first slide. The Amulet of Destiny is too good. Okay.
Yeah.
Save stacking 2. You just throw that in there. Is this
Yeah, I
secretly...
had to add that at the end because
Okay.
we have to talk about save stacking because obviously it's a big deal. And as we'll see, like they kind of do the same thing, save stackings and wards slightly differently, but we'll see. They're both pretty horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Exciting. Next slide, sir.
Yes, next slide.
This is what I do now, chat. I just do the slides. We need
You
to talk
just like
about the Amulet of Destiny. Can I read it out and then you can let us know what it does?
yeah.
What does it do? How good is it? Interactions with save stacking, and why is it a problem? All right, what does it do?
So this is in every list, right? That's the thing. This is like our headline page. The Amulet of Destiny is in every list. Every list. Okay, not actually every list, but some people have to take certain other artifacts because they're sub-faction. Some people still want to use Battle Regiment, which is also maybe an issue, or not. But it's in so many lists, and like we saw Darren this week on Twitter complaining that list writing is so rote at the moment. You just pick the best universal things as a baseline, right?
Hmm.
Either you pick the best universal stuff, the Master of Magic or the Prayer one or the Amulet or the Arcane Tome, or you have something even better, which is pretty wild. So it's kind of dull. Some people are feeling right now that you just pick Amulet. And so we're going to address the problems on the screen, basically.
We are.
So next slide.
In our new segment called the Thortal Realms. Thank you, MJ Pegasus. That's the new segment. Okay, so it gives you a 5-up. Specifically, the Amulet of Destiny is a 5-up
Yeah.
ward that you can give to a hero as an artifact, and you don't
Well,
have to.
next slide. Tell us.
Oh, sorry. Next slide. Oh, no, there we go. Right, what does it do? 5+ ward to the bearer. Okay, talk me through it. Check Cabbage. This is all you.
Yeah, so it's a 5+ ward for the bearer, and it's universal. So that means there are no limitations, no restrictions at all, apart from if you have a battle tome restriction. So you can give it to a 4-wound Madcap Shaman, or you could give it to your Mega Gargant, who you've given monstrosity stuff, so he's got 40 wounds. Yeah, anybody.
And it's not points restricted, right? So that
No.
upgrade as you say, the economy scale is far better on 40 wounds than it is on 5.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see that soon. It's just like there's being no restrictions means you can apply it to all sorts of things, and the amount of efficiency is going to vary wildly. So how good is it? Right, I've got a little conversation there. It's a 33% chance to roll a 5-up.
Yep.
So it's got to be 33% good, right?
Yep. Yes.
No, that's not right.
Oh, fuck, I was tricked. Okay, right. So it makes the hero 33% more survivable, does it?
No.
Oh.
No,
more...
it is 1/3 of the numbers you can roll,
yeah.
but it ends up being more than 33%, which we'll get into on our next slide.
Oh, shit. Okay, but 5 and 6s are 1/3 of the numbers on the die, so it's 33%. So surely it's 33%, ? .com.
Exactly, but it's not actually the case once we do the maths.
Shit, next slide.
Next slide.
Okay, all right. Talk to me about it. Oh my god,
So
Dragon Ogre Shaggoth at a square base.
Yeah.
You've just triggered everyone. You've triggered absolutely everyone. Number one, 98% of the audience are like, what the fuck is that model? Still a current in-range model. Number two, what's a square base? Charlie, you've kicked us off. Right, go on. After you.
I know. I've kicked the hornet's nest here. They don't actually have an image on a round base.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So we're going to start comparing heroes with a ward to heroes without a ward.
Yeah.
So I've picked the Shaggoth because he's a 10 wound hero, which is a nice number we can work with. Also, I'm a Beast of Chaos stan, so and it's my show now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. We're also going to skip save rolls at the start, so we're just going to deal with the wards. So this is all damage after saves. So we're going to use the term inflict damage, which is from the part 4 of the attack sequence rules, which is after you've made save rolls, you inflict damage equal to the damage characteristic of the weapon.
Okay. So after the save rolls, if my damage characteristic is 2, I'll inflict 2 damage.
Exactly, right. And we're going to be talking about how much damage you need to inflict. So that's why when we're talking about damage we need to inflict, we're talking about damage after save rolls.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent.
Yeah. So let's go to the next slide.
Okay, there we go.
We're actually going to start with a 4+ ward save because it's a bit easier to understand than a 5+ at the moment. But first we'll start with a Shaggoth with no ward. This is the basic stuff here. A Shaggoth has 10 wounds, so to kill the Shaggoth you need to inflict 10 damage. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Simple stuff. And because it's got no ward, 100% of the damage you inflict is allocated to the model.
And he dies.
Yeah, and he dies.
Nice.
And that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to kill him.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So then the damage we need to inflict is 10. But if we go to the 4+ ward save,
okay,
that's got a 50% success rate, right?
Right. Yeah.
1, 2, 3 fails, 4, 5, 6 succeeds. That's half.
Yep.
So it saves 50% of the damage that you inflict to the model. Right? So you actually have to inflict 20 damage to kill the 10 wound Shaggoth because half of the damage you inflict is saved.
Yes, half. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
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 Right? So if you look at a little chart there, I've got like 10 damage allocated, 10 damage prevented, right? Because it's a 50% split.
Yeah.
So the damage you actually need has changed from 10 into 20.
Yep. Because of
so that's not exactly. So that's actually a 100% increase in the damage you need.
Not 50%.
Yeah, exactly. You're not adding 50% to the damage you need. You're adding 100% to the damage you need.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always what made, as Owen said in the chat, Phoenix Guard so mental because they have a 4 ward. So you basically have to, if they have 10 models, you have to inflict after saves 20 damage to kill the 10 dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of like a thought change I'm asking people to do. When it's your model and you're rolling the save, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to save half of these. That's 50%. What I want people to think is actually think of as though you're the attacker. How much damage do I have to do? Because it's got a 4+, you have to double the damage in your mind. I can't just do 10. I have to do 20.
Yeah.
Right? So we're talking about damage inflicted. That's why the wars are so good, because it has a huge effect on the damage needed by the attacker.
This is before we even talk about saves.
Before saves.
Yeah. So this is just wards. Okay.
Exactly. So if we move to the next slide,
Yep. There it. Yep.
then we've got to talk about the 5+ ward. The 5+ ward saves 33% of the damage inflicted on the 5 or the 6.
Mhm.
So to kill the Shaggoth, if you're saving 33%, to kill the 10 wound Shaggoth, the 66% of the rolls that the Shaggoth fails has to equal 10. You understand?
Yep.
You have to equal 10 to kill it. So 66% has to be 10. So the 33% is what you save. So if you
Yep.
look at our chart, that's 10 damage is allocated as the 66, and 5 damage is the 33% that you prevent.
Yep.
So the damage required to kill it has changed from 10 damage into 15 damage.
Yep. So I need 15
So
damage.
that means that rather than, yeah, exactly. So that's actually a 50% increase in the damage you need.
Right, not a 33%. So we think about them as 33% more survivable, but what you're saying is the conversation should be that actually it's 50% more damage needed, and that's actually far more important to discuss.
Yes,
Right.
but if you think about it, that's also survivability, right? Because it's survivability is it about how much damage you can take? Yes, you're taking 50% more damage on the model before it dies.
Which is also really important as well to know. Like either as the person with the model or the person attacking, you need to know that the survivability conversation is a bit irrelevant actually.
Yeah. So basically you can think of it like, you're saving 1/3, but that's actually giving you 50% more survivability, 50% more durability, or 50% effective wounds bonus, whatever you want to call it. It's requiring 50% more damage to destroy the model.
Yeah.
So that's why I said 33% equals 50%, because actually it's 50% damage required.
Yeah, because we talk about a third all the time, but actually, like it's a much better conversation. I think this is mainly because Charlie listens to the coverage and I say stupid shit like this. So thanks, Charlie. Charlie's like, no, it's 50% more. No, it's 100% more survivable. No, 50% more survivable is what you're saying.
50% for the 5+,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So the 150 I mentioned earlier is, the effective wounds of the character. The Shaggoth effectively has 15 wounds, 150%.
Yes. Effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You think you actually only add
Yes.
on a third, but yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying because of the
Yeah,
damage.
exactly.
All right. That makes loads of
Yeah.
sense.
So if we go to the next slide, I've got a little, there we go. There's a little chart of the extra damage required for each ward save. 6+ you need 20%, 5+ is 50, 4+ 100, 5+ is 200% more. That's your Gotrek there. After saves and after he reduces damage to 1, of course.
Yeah.
And then a 2+ is only in 40k for the Archon, who loses after one fail anyway. But you can see the point of this graph is you can see it's actually exponential, the curve. It's not linear. So the better the ward, the more efficient it is. And yeah, we can go on to the next one, I guess.
Yeah, so Brother Sky in the chat, this is basic maths, lol. Most wargamers only look at it from the model side of the equation. It's basically me. Charlie's basically talking to me. This is a presentation for me, to me. It started out with a, hey, Rob, like in a WhatsApp, and then it went to, a phone call, and now it's a slideshow. So, like, and I bet there's a load of people like me who are like we're on the same page. Like, so Charlie, thank you. This is excellent. Like, this is really good.
It's not hard maths, but it's about a perspective change,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing, is like I'm not teaching anyone anything new. I didn't study maths beyond GCSE. I'm not a wizard or anything. It's just at some point, I think it was back when we first Age of Sigmar 3 first launched, I suddenly had this perspective switch in my mind. I was like, hold on, no, this is actually really potent. And I'm just trying to help people flick into that perspective. Basically, this is why the amulet's so good in a nutshell. It requires more damage than you think it would do.
Okay, excellent. Hold on, I just pressed the wrong button there. Next slide.
Yeah. So yeah, now it's time to talk about the save rolls, because obviously we've been talking about everything's been after saves, right? But the characters that tend to have the amulet tend to have pretty good save rolls. So we're going to talk about it now. Age of Sigmar is here. And the amulet is so good because it applies its efficiency on top of whatever efficiency you get from your save stacking,
Okay, yes.
right? And obviously, this amulet is on heroes, so they can save stack. This little chart here is sort of basic dice rolling maths. There's an equal chance to roll any number,
Yep.
which means that when you're rolling any die, the chance to fail a save is whatever is on the chart here, and it's pretty linear, right?
Yeah, so
Every
the chance to fail a save is success rate. Sorry, the chance to save a 2-up armor save is about 83%. A 3-up is about 66%. 4-up is 50%, and then 33% and 16%, just for people listening to the podcast. So there's an equal chance to roll any number on a die, obviously. Therefore, the chance to pass save is linear.
Yeah.
Also, thanks to Iron Gutsman for resubscribing. Big love to you. Please continue.
And then you can see that if every jump is the 16.67% added on each time. That's it. That's basic dice maths. But the issue is, if we go to the next slide, that in Age of Sigmar we aren't trying to just like roll one die. We're trying to kill models by producing enough failed saves to kill the model, right? Yep. So if we look at failed saves rather than the chance to fail, right, instead of chance to succeed, in order to kill a 10 wound model with damage 1 attacks, we need 10 failed saves.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at how many dice is required to fail 10 saves, that is not linear. The higher the save, the more dice it requires exponentially.
Oh, yeah, of course.
If you want to read out the chart.
Okay, yeah. So in order to make 10 failed saves, against a 4+, it requires you to do 20. Give them 20 dice. You give them 20 dice, and they'll fail 10. On a 5-up, it's 15 dice. On a 3-up, it's 30 dice. So 4-up is 20, 3-up is 30, but it's 60 on a 2-up.
Yeah. Because obviously they fail 1 in 6, and so if 1 in 6 is 10, then the whole total's got to be 60.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to give them 60 dice against a 2-up save for them to to make 10 failed saves.
Exactly. Okay. So the TLDR is more stacking, more good.
Yeah, more stacking, more good. Yeah, so there's, like you say, there's an exponential increase between a 4 and a 3. We think of it as the math of like you say,
a die roll.
A die roll. It doesn't seem as extreme, but like Iron Gutsman is saying in the chat, this is why minuses to hit are also stronger than they seem, because the movement between those die rolls is actually pretty massive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if we go to the next slide.
By the way, hold on, just for the Twitch chat, I'm completely out of my depth right now, so just fucking leave me alone. Fucking get out of my face. Carry on, Charlie. Sorry, yeah, it was just a quick one.
On the next slide, obviously the difference between wards and saves is the multiple damage thing, right? When you fail a save, multiple damage goes through.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you fail, when you're rolling for a ward save, you're rolling it for each damage.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of the difference. But if you look at this chart, it's the same kind of curve when you look at damage 2 attacks, right? This is a chart for how many save rolls you need to inflict 40 damage with a damage 2 attack profile.
Okay. So if my attack, so I do damage 2 with my weapon, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Like a Graveguard.
Let's Graveguard, for example. And they don't have a ward. It's going to require 40 wound dice. Is it before saves or after saves? Before.
This is save rolls.
Save rolls.
When you're handing the dice to your opponent.
Explain it to me again. Sorry.
Right. You made your hits. You've made your wounds. This is how many dice you have to give your opponent.
All right. So I need to give my opponent, against a 4-up save, I need to give my opponent 40 dice to do 40 wounds. Yeah. I need to give them 60 dice with damage 2 to do 40 wounds against a 3-up save. And on a 2-up save, I have to give them 120 dice again to do damage 40. So, like, to do 40 damage with a 2 damage weapon, I need to give them 120 dice. So I guess the one that's probably most relevant there is with damage 2, I need to give my opponent 60. I need to wound 60 times. So I hit and I wound, and then I've wounded 60 times for me to be able to do 40 damage in one go. Okay. Yeah.
And then if you add the amulet, you add 50%.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and if you add the amulet on specifically, you need to give them 90 dice at damage 2. 90
Yeah.
dice. Or even, I mean, even like against a 4-up armor save, like if they have the amulet, then in order to do 40 damage, I need to give them 60 wound dice.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So you're telling me I need to wound 90 times with Graveguard to kill a Mega Gargant in one go?
If it's got 2 stacks, yeah.
Jeez Louise. Okay.
That's after hits and wounds.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
that makes some sense now. When you put it, that doesn't sound right. It's right. I know it doesn't sound right. It's painful.
If you think about the 4+, it makes sense, right? Look at the 40. Without the ward, the 40,
Yeah.
right? So if it saves half of those dice, it fails 20 times, and that's damage 2, so that's 40 damage,
Yeah.
right?
I'm with you. I agree.
If you look at with the ward save, 60 wounds, 60. You have to make 60 save rolls, right? You fail half, so 30 go through. Okay, that 30 becomes 60 damage, and it saves 1/3 of that damage.
It does 40.
And it does 40 goes through.
Even against a 5-up save. So even if I like go into a Gargant, because this is really what we're looking at, right? So if 40 wounds with the amulet, I have to give them 45 damage to attacks, yeah, that reduce their rend to a 5-up armor save, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. And I have to give them 45. Like I have to wound 45 times with my Graveguard. Like
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily just Mega Gargants. I didn't write Mega Gargant in the title because it could be something like Phoenix Guard, right? You know, although they've got a 4-up, so you'd have to double the orange bit for Phoenix Guard.
Yeah.
Can you get to 40 Phoenix Guard? No, not
No,
anymore.
you can get to 30.
But, yeah, but yeah, basically it's a lot.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. If we go to the next slide, we won't dwell on the next slide, but this is for like the same thing, but with the amulet for all the different damage types.
Okay. Right. So in order to do the 40 damage that we're talking about, because we rolled this out the other day,
Yeah.
right? Last week we had a bit of a laugh with it all. Thanks, Menset, for subscribing. I hope you're from Mensa because I need all the help I can get. 40 damage to by modified save roll with amulet. So this is basically to kill our Mega Gargant in one go, who's got the Amulet of Destiny. In order to do our 40 damage, this is what we need, right? Is this what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Right, so we know it requires against a 3-up armor save. We need 180 dice at damage 1, 90 dice at damage 2, 63 dice at damage 3. That can't be right. I've got to do 63 damage 3 attacks to kill a Mega Gargant without, like, if he's got a 3-up.
Yeah.
Fuck me. 45.
You saved 2/3 of them, right?
Yes, because the armor save is more effective here, right? Is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, some of the numbers, because of Excel mathing it out, it might be actually 60 rather than 63. Because you save 2/3, then you multiply by 3 back up to 60. There may be some small.
So Planchette and everyone else in the chat has just said this is obviously against a 3+, right? Yeah, and it's like that doesn't take into account rend. But the problem is rend is variable, as is the save. For instance, like a Mystic Shield, their finest hour and all-out defense. So the best version of a save you can get is +3 to the save roll for a Mega Gargant. So you can you can basically have a 3-up save ignoring rend 2. That's a little bit harder because it requires you casting Mystic Shield. You can have a 3-up save ignoring rend 1. So it's very likely that this Mega Gargant in the right situation is at least on a 3-up save. So then whether or not you're ignoring the rend, it comes into that conversation, right?
That's why it's modified save roll, right? So we basically modify the save roll, then look at the chart, and then you'll know how much you need.
Yeah, so against a 4-up save, which is the base, so like you don't have rend and it's a 4-up save and they haven't put any saves on it, 121 wound damage 1 attacks, 60 damage 2 attacks, 42 damage 3 attacks, and 30 damage 4 attacks. I don't even know what is damage 4. Like some stone haunts, they don't have 30 attacks.
You can get to damage 4 and a few things, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's tough.
yeah. So basically, like Paragon is saying, if the chart that we're looking at, by the way, if you want to take Rend into account, you basically look at this. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Even against a 5-up save, you need to give them 91 wound dice and still 45 damage to attacks. Like, well, you need to.
And 15 damage 6 attacks.
Just like 4 Lariels will do it. That's what we need. Yeah, or
Yeah, you need like 3
three
Dirthus or something.
Dirthus. 3 Dirthus will do it, baby. Yeah.
Because obviously it saves a third down to 10, so that's 10 fails. Multiplied by 6 is 60. 60 is the magic number after the save rolls, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what the amulet does. The amulet saves 1/3. So you need to do at least 60 damage after saves.
Yeah.
Remember that these are also save rolls. These aren't hit rolls.
Or wound rolls.
No.
Yeah. So there are 2 other rolls that need. This is after you've hit and wounded.
Get into attacks a bit
yeah,
later.
you've successfully hit and wounded. Okay.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Okay, that really puts
So
it into context. Their survivability.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. So yeah, why don't you read out this one?
Okay. Why is this a problem? It's more efficient on models that can save stack well. Agreed. It's much as save stacking is more efficient on units that already start out with a good armor save. So it becomes even more effective, right?
Because we've got that exponential graph where the higher your save, the more dice it takes than before, right? So if you're adding 50% on top of the save rolls, you're getting more value by adding 50% to an already higher number.
Yeah. Okay. Right, I agree. This is all Project Fear. We need the freedom to take back control and use the amulet. Thanks, Hamsman. It's more efficient on models with lots of wounds. Yep. It's unlikely every hero in the game was balanced for it. 100% agree. Which was already my argument against generic artifacts last time. Don't forget, this isn't a new problem in Age of Sigmar as is. We've had this conversation already, specifically the Ethereal Gem, or even ethereal amulet. It was an amulet. Amulet of Destiny. Why is it always
ethereal amulet?
Why is it always amulets are so powerful?
Look, these amulet
Fucking
guys.
Amulet guys,
the market, haven't they?
Was it just like the ethereal amulet, and then they just kind of just did a couple of more knocks, and they were like, okay, fine, it's an Amulet of Destiny now.
Yeah, put a sticker over the box.
So we long for a brooch. We do. So we had that already in the game, and we even the CP regen item. What was it called? The Eighth Quartz brooch was also the was also.
Oh, I love that thing.
Was also the other thing. Generic artifacts are never thought about when they design the core books, and so the battle tome, so they don't relate to each other, and so you end up with really hilariously because you don't.
Yeah, I wasn't
point for it, right?
that bothered about the last set because most of them were rubbish, and the ones that were good, I didn't think were as good as the current amulet is. And the really powerful armies kind of had better artifacts in their books anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why I wasn't so bothered about the last lot. But sometimes you spike big on that brooch, and I remember I once rolled 9 5-ups on that thing, and got 11 extra attacks on Bulgurs.
Oh baby. Okay. It's unlikely every hero game was balanced for it. I think is probably every hero in the game wasn't balanced for it. And therefore the game wasn't set for it. It sets a really high bar for artifacts. I think that's also a really good point, Cabbage, because actually from the 2 new books that we've seen, the artifacts are a bit meh anyway. Ultimately, there's less of them, which I think is fine. But yeah, it sets a high bar. Because I would actually argue I'd get rid of this and the Arcane Tome. To be honest, I'd just get rid of both of them.
Yeah.
But that's a different conversation.
Imagine if they wrote an artifact in a book that was pick a hero. That hero gets plus 50% wounds.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Usually it's your hero has 1 wound extra, right? Those command traits.
Yeah, plus 1 wound.
Add 1 wound to your hero. Yeah, not 50%. So whenever you're looking at picking what artifact for your army, it's got to beat plus 50% wounds.
Yeah, so a couple of points being made in the chat, which I'd like to talk about, but maybe there's a slide later on where we come to it. But I have kind of had this conversation already. But there are 2 points. Number one for Final Flash, but it goes back to the haves and have-nots. If everyone can have it, it's not broke like standard battalions. But the difference, as Charlie's pointed out, the difference between a Grot Shaman having it and a 40 wound Mega Gargant is very, very different, because it's not haves and have-nots. It's like
haves and have-mores.
Yeah, haves and have-mores. It's a game of efficiency, right? It's a game of math where things are built upon each other, and then the whole thing is balanced with points, which leads into Shugo's point, which I've always argued for, that if you're going to have artifacts, just make them have a points cost. We've already got a way to design how effective something is. You pay points for it. We've already done this before. You pay points for a thing back in Warhammer Fantasy Battle days. This thing is, it's too good for 45 points. Oh, cool, we'll put it on this. But the problem with that is, it kind of contradicts point one, because 75 points for the Amulet of Destiny, let's say, isn't as good.
Yeah, variance in how much effectiveness.
There's a variance still in effect there. A Mega Gargant taking it for 75 points is different again to the Grot Shaman doing it. Very much like Spell Portal. Spell Portal's like, oh cool, I can do this okay spell through a Spell Portal, or Kairos can do fucking Gift of Change through it. Like, Spell Portal's way better, like, for,
Yeah, I mean, I think there are probably 4 fixes that we could do for Amulet, which I'll cover later. But yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So I just wanted to do that. Sets a really high bar for artifacts. I agree. A universal artifact being better than faction artifacts is backwards incentive structure. Agree with that, Charlie. You got anything you want to say on that?
Yeah. Basically, the idea is, you have to choosing a sub faction or a faction sort of directs you towards certain builds, and usually that's more restrictive than being able to do anything you want. And so usually there's an incentive structure, whereas if you take this more narrow route, which maybe constrains your list building parameters, then you should be rewarded with good artifacts and traits for taking those choices. That's I think a more normal incentive structure for game design, right? Choose a linear path, get stronger benefits, rather than choosing everything and getting everything.
I'm with you. The ability to prevent damage begins to outstrip the ability to inflict damage. 50% is too.
That's the key point, really, I think.
Go on, go for it then.
Because I think the reason the artifact is too good is that the 50% bump on just anything means that in lots of situations, when combined with the save stacking, it's taking the durability of units beyond the ability of the opponent to do damage. Right? Adding 50% bump to a 40 wound Mega Gargant is just taking it beyond the opponent's ability to inflict that damage. Like, you just can't find an extra 20 damage in the list sometimes. Because that's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Find 20 more damage to kill my dude.
Yeah.
Right? That's the little point below that. If you put it on your Madcap Shaman, it's going from 4 wounds to 6 wounds, effectively. So you're telling your opponent, find 2 wounds to kill my guy. That's not really an issue. I can find 2 extra damage in the list. But when it's find 20 more damage, that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, good. Next slide.
Right. Next. Yeah, let's start adding hit rolls, shall we? So, that was only saving throws. When you get to hit rolls, it gets kind of crazy, right? So you can have a look at this chart. This is how many attacks you need to have at 3s and 3s to do the same damage.
Okay.
And it's huge.
All right, so if I hit on 3s, wound on 3s to inflict 40 damage against a 4-up save, I need 270 attacks.
At damage 1.
At damage 1 if it's got a ward save, or 180 attacks if it doesn't. At damage 2, to do the 40 damage. So this is hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. So like this is what we talked about before. So if I have a damage 2 profile, I need to do 90 attacks. Well, I need to have 90 attacks before I roll to hit into wound to do my 40 damage at damage 2, or I need 135 attacks, hit on 3s, wound on 3s, no rend, I assume. No rend against a normal armor save of a 4-up, and then against a 5-up ward, which is pretty crazy. Yeah.
We can also skip to the next one. We don't need to dwell on these too much, but basically, your situation there with the Grave Guard, right? You need 90 attacks with the Graveguard to do 40 damage without the amulet. When you add the amulet, that 50% bump is not asking you just for 20. It's asking you for 20 more damage, but that's actually 45 extra attacks you need to find.
So
after your threes.
So is that on which one's that against? 4-up save?
That's a damage 2. The damage 2 against the 4-up.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it's 100. Yeah,
Yeah.
135.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's an extra 45 attacks you need to find after you do, because of you lose some to hits and wounds.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a lot once you add the hits and wounds in, right?
It is a lot once you do the hits and wounds. Yeah, Call Me Quinn is like, whoa, this is some big numbers. It is 100% some big numbers. Okay, but
yeah, that's 3-up with 1 damage.
So Charlie, what we're saying, we hate Mega Gargants, even though you love them and you play with them all the time.
No, that's the next one, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Next slide.
Set you up for it. Go for it.
Sweet. No, I'm using Megas because they're the hot button issue, right? They're the clearest example of how this is an issue. But it's not really about the Megas, I think. I think it's about the core rules, right? You've just given these tools to all these different units, and the amount of efficiency is going to vary hugely, and Megas are just the extreme, right?
Yep.
I was thinking this morning, like, what kind of what could think about, like, it's kind of like that kid at primary school who gets in trouble because he shoots the neighbor's cat with a BB gun. Yeah, the kid's in trouble, but why do they have the gun?
Oh, it's the parents' fault.
It's, someone gave them a gun. Yeah. They did something bad with the gun, but they shouldn't have the gun in the first place.
That's fair. No, that makes sense. So the war toddlers are running around with their amulets, and they shouldn't have been given them in the first place.
No. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of talk right now, especially in the Sons of Behemoth chat, actually. The Sons of Behemoth chat's all about, how are we going to get nerfed? What's the best way to nerf us? And, everyone thinks they need to be taken down a peg, but I don't think nerfing the book is necessarily the answer, because was the book that big an issue in AOS 2?
By the way, everyone in the chat right now is livid that you want to take their guns, Cabbage. Like a couple of the Americans listening right now are like, fucking my Second Amendment says if I want to shoot a squirrel, Cabbage, I'll shoot the damn squirrel. Sorry, anyway.
You shouldn't give guns to 10-year-olds, is what I'm saying.
Jesus, there's going to be someone in the YouTube comments who 100% does not agree with that. There's going to be like, I'll raise my son! Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a core rules issue, not a book issue. Suns were not a huge problem in AOS 2. They were a bit of a gatekeeper, but they weren't setting the world on fire. Then core rules change, and now they're incredible.
Well, yeah,
right?
Anyway, we don't need to talk about that. I don't need to justify
We won't dive
that.
too hard into that. I'm saying it's a core rules issue because at the bottom here, we've got the same thing for the 11 wound Knight Draconis with the amulet. How many attacks you need.
Right.
It's still a lot.
Yeah, so an 11 wound Knight Draconis at damage 2, I need to do 41 wounds. Sorry, I need to give it 41 wound dice, right?
This is attacks now.
Attacks. So I need to give it 41 attack. I need to have 41 damage 2 attacks against a Knight Draconis. Wait, but that's if I've got Rend. Sorry, on their base save, which is a 3-up, I need to have 61 attacks that are damage 2, or 111 attacks that are damage 1 to kill an 11 wound Knight Draconis.
And that guy's probably going to be Finest Hour or Mystic Shield or All Out Defense, right? So he's going to be a 2-up save, probably.
In which case, I need 223 damage 1 attacks to kill an 11 wound character, or I need 122 damage 2 attacks to kill that 11 wound character, or 81 damage 3 attacks. That's fucking dumb.
It's a lot of Bulgors.
That's fucking dumb. That's fucking dumb. To be fair, though, if you have damage 3, normally you have some sort of Rend, but because they start out at 3-up save, that Mystic Shield and All-Out Defense is really easy to achieve, so they probably can be ignoring Rend 1, and like you say, Finest Hour, not including any ways to add +1 save inside Stormcast, means that you can
if you're lining up enough models to do 81 attacks, you're probably telegraphing it, and they're going to find a Hour, right?
Probably, yeah. Oh, yeah, and also Nemesis Zadrek. There's also -1 to wound. Well, there's not technically. Some people might not take the command trait for -1 to wound. Some people may not. As I understand it, based on some YouTube things, apparently Dracolines are better if you look not Fulminators are better if you in no way take into account the movement of the army. As long as you don't take that into account, they're better.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So that's the point I'm making is this is core rules, right? This is save stacking plus Amulet of Destiny is producing crazy numbers, and that's why stuff doesn't die.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, crazy numbers, specifically because of the amulet, right? I mean, even if they don't do any saves, right, and if you have Rend, I need 74 attacks, like, to be able to kill an 11 wound character. Like, and their base isn't massive. What is it, a 110 oval? I think we found out from the battle report yesterday.
Maybe.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's a lot, right? You can put it on like a, I mean, I can think about a Frostlord on Stonehall, right? He's got the 5-up natively.
Yeah, he does.
Right. So he can just stack, and he's got a 3-up save on his War Scroll. Yeah. So I mean, he's living this life all the time.
What is this life? The best life.
Yeah, the best life.
Frostlord, there's a bunch of Beast Core Raider players right now, like looking at the screen, like, shut the fuck up, Charlie. Stop fucking talking right now.
I played against Beast Core Raiders with my Beasts of Chaos, and I tried to go into one of them. I realized very quickly I can't interact with this army at all, and I spent the other 4 turns running away all game. And I drew.
Like literally everyone right now watching who's like, Charlie, if you say one more goddamn word. Okay, all right, next. Counter arguments. I love this. Would you like Shilly?
Yeah, so these are 2 little counter arguments that I heard. I'm not going to invoke Shilly because they came from people I respect. But
okay, Charlie. Okay, all right.
So the first one is extra protection is needed to counter mortal wound and shooting, mortal wound projection and shooting, right? There's a lot of mortal wound projection in the game, right? People are able to really project power across the board and do a lot of damage with shooting and mortal wounds. So we need some extra durability for characters.
Yeah.
Was that argument? I think that makes some sense, but my counterpoint to the counterpoint would be if the game needs this level of durability to reduce the oppressiveness of shooting, maybe we should just rein in the shooting.
Yeah, because the amulet causes a problem for melee, like, so just rein the shooting in. Because I agree with this wholesale. Like I think my general stance, if I was to have any control in Age of Sigmar at the moment, which I don't, I would just delete Sentinels. Like I would just make them poof, and then I'd just make there be obscuring terrain in the game, and I think the game's fine. After that. But with that in effect, whatever. But anyway, please continue.
I mean, it's the bow snakes too, right? You know, there are various different units.
But bow snakes don't ignore line of sight. So if you do have obscuring terrain, very much like in 40k, like actually one of the, just for anyone who's only an Age of Sigmar stand, just to have a quick conversation about 40k meta, because it's quite interesting. At the start of 9th edition, there was some big push, mainly because Games Workshop and the ITC weren't really functioning. Therefore, the guys from WTC put out terrain packs, specifically designed to create like good interactive games. They had some very heavy board states, and those heavy board states created a lot of line of sight block shooting. Because of that, the meta adapted, and you had a bunch of different units like Hive Guard and other stuff that ignore line of sight shooting become more dominant because they were so good, right? Or because they effectively could like change the math around a little bit and they could fuck around with stuff. And so the meta adapted because that's how good it is. So even in the shooting game that is 40k, ignoring line of sight shooting is still very dominant. And I would argue that the combat game of Age of Sigmar, again, these are all in bunny marks, shouldn't have any ignore line of sight shooting at all. Or it should be something like you know, like a fucking like a catapult that only hits on a 3-up or something. Do you know what I mean?
Or they can't use, you know, they can't do mortals if they ignore line of sight.
Yeah. Something, right? But ultimately there should be no. I think we should have line of sight blocking terrain, and we shouldn't have anything that ignores line of sight, or it should be difficult. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Sentinels should at least be as expensive as Bliss Barb Archers.
At least. At least.
At least.
At least. At least. Yeah, I mean, at least. Anyway, that's fine. Right. Anyway, sorry. After you.
The next one was it lets people play with their models longer, right? If your models aren't dying so quick, you get to play with them more, enjoy playing with them more. But I'm not convinced that uselessly flailing against unkillable heroes is really playing with my models. But maybe that's just me as a Beast of Chaos player, you know?
I'm not convinced. Yeah, thanks, Ben Necessity, for subscribing, and hello. I'm not convinced that uselessly flailing against unkillable heroes is really playing with my models. I think I agree with you. I think there's nothing more underwhelming than buffing up your big block, whatever that might be, especially if they're infantry and they're fairly slow, and then you finally get into the combat. I think it's the first time you've ever rolled a Bloodthirster into anything, and then you're like, oh, is this this all it does? Like, is this it? I agree with that. But no, I think that's fair, Charlie. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. That's why, like, early on in Age of Sigmar, I went the other way, recognizing save stacking being an issue. I went, well, how much shit can I put on the board? And started put 50 pink horrors on the board week 1. I was like, well, I'm just going to put down rubbish, because the counter meta to everyone building save stacking is that you build in mortal wounds and you build in rend and you go for more elite damage to try and punch through those big character models. And so I was just like, well, what's the counter to that? Just take shit, where all your expensive, valuable mortal wounds and everything is useless. But I would agree. I would agree with
loads of Ungor.
Loads of Ungor.
Right. What can be done?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't think the amulet should be removed. I mean, that's one of the options, right? I said there are 4 options you could take. You could just delete it, which is an option.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the least popular option, probably. The other option would be you change it to a 6+ ward, so then it's only 20% effective, which isn't so bad. And, you know, things like Gargants already have that in their book. So on the plus side, you aren't just invalidating the only good artifact Breaker Tribe has by giving one more than twice as good. Or you could change it to heroes with 9 or fewer wounds, so you're only affecting heroes which it won't be so problematic, right? Smaller heroes, where at most you're adding 4.5 wounds on top, then it's not so bad. Or another option I didn't write down would be only on heroes that don't have the monster keyword.
Okay, so my question, and it's coming from the chat as well, why shouldn't it be removed?
I mean, I think, you know, there are some books which need a bit of help.
But then
right?
you're already helping out books that don't need help.
That's why I think you should reduce the efficiency. I think there's a level.
But then you're reducing the efficiency for the books that are bad, and still giving that bonus efficiency to the books that are good. Like.
Yes, I suppose so. But I think if you take possibly the 9 wounds or fewer, or the non-monster hero one, then the non-behemoth, non-monster, then you're kind of removing a lot of the problematic units from the good books. In which case, the good books are probably just take something else because they're looking to buff up their cabbage, or their Hag Queen on Shrine, or whatever it is,
Knight
you know.
Draconis.
And yeah, Knight Draconis, right? He's got 11, so he'd be out. So things like that, those are out. Those are out of it. So now you're buffing things like Shaman, Loon Bosses, Bulgors, maybe like Foot Stormcast heroes, which is still actually really efficient. But you know, it's at least it's a little bit addressed. Like, I'll give it some ideas of how to address it without going the extreme. It's gone. It's out of the game. But you know, that is an option.
Okay, yeah. Like, I personally like, and I've asked in the chat what they think, and also if you listen to the YouTube, I'd love to leave in the comments. I just think throw it in the sea, and I also think the same of Arcade Tome. FYI. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an option.
Like,
I went for a less extreme one, but
I just don't know. It was the same situation with the ethereal gem, right? Or ethereal amulet, whatever, right? Like,
yeah.
It was just like, oh, this is just like, this is a problem. But it's just like, you've not hurt anyone. There's not anyone who's like, my book is completely devalued now because like there's going to be people who cry.
Yeah, I mean we didn't have it before, right?
Didn't have it before, and actually I think the bit you talked about design was the most interesting thing. There shouldn't be, you shouldn't open up your Stormcast book or you shouldn't open up your, I don't know, your Lumineth book next year. You open up your Lumineth book and then you look back and you think, right, where am I putting the amulet and the arcane tome from the core book in? Like, it's a weird process to go through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, that's
So we should change that to delete the amulet.
yeah. I would just delete. I would delete the arcane tome as well. Like, I don't think they should be in match play. I don't think those core things should be in match play personally.
Yeah, maybe there's a case for that. Yeah. I guess the next point is, we could also address save stacking, because that's just adding so much durability to units. It's probably more problematic than the amulet, actually. It's just that the amulet shows up everywhere, so it's sort of more of a hot button issue, I thought. And my idea for the save stacking would be you can max out a +1 save before rend.
Or the rend, yeah, you should just be able to add +1 to your save. That's it, right?
Yeah, you add +1 and then you apply rend.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah.
Done. Maximum +1
Exactly.
to your save character, to your save roll is the maximum you're allowed. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you apply rend, so you can actually hurt stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. However, we need to address shooting and mortal wound protection first, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think so, because it seems like they've built this whole edition around the idea that we're going to be save stacking with heroes, right? With all the mystic shields and the all-out defense and the finest hour, right? They've sort of built up this edition on the idea that this is a big deal, and that's presumably to counter a high shooting, high mortal wound output meta. But if that method was reined in, if that method didn't exist, then we wouldn't need so much durability in the game, and then melee units would have more stuff to do.
Okay, all right.
I'm presuming that didn't the Maw Crusher, Mega Blossom Maw Crusher, drop a save characteristic down to 4+?
Yes, but then you can take one of the weapon loadouts. You can have it so your characteristic goes back to a 3-up.
Is it characteristic back to 3-up? Or is it +1 save?
It might be +1 save. I'll go double check. 1 second.
I haven't spent much time researching, but my initial thought when I heard that it dropped the 4+ was that's probably a reaction to the idea that you're going to be stacking saves on that thing all the time.
Just double check. Base save goes to 3-up. It's characteristic. Thanks, some works. I thought that's what it was.
Okay, maybe it's because they wanted to give a shield an option then.
Yeah. Right. So the chat have all voted on whether or not it should be kept. 58% are idiots and they think to keep it, and then 42% are geniuses and they think to bin it in and put it in the sea. But I think it's not quite a fair representation, because very much like current politics, you're actually allowed to vote with your money in a Twitch poll, so you can use your channel points to.
I've got 97k on that.
Yeah. The prediction, yes, as always, the answer is bin. Thanks, MJ. I'll sort that out. That'll be fun. Okay. There's a picture of Gotrek. Is that in here for any reason?
Yeah, because he's the boss. He's the boss, isn't he?
He's just the boss.
Save stacking, reduce damage to 1, then 3+ ward. He's the ultimate, isn't he? Ultimate damage sponge.
He's good, but he doesn't actually appear in lists that generally end up doing well at events. So
no.
A bit of a myth. Like the early days, everyone was whinging about Gotrek, and I seem to remember a particularly good-looking Warhammer streamer. I don't know his name, but he was talking about the fact that save stacking would be the major issue, and also Gotrek was a nice counter to those pieces. I don't remember who he was, Ron or something, but he sounds like a babe. That's what I'm going to say.
-2 rend on him.
-2, so he basically can. I would argue going into, let's say, Nagash with the Vengori Lord, or some of the other kind of like major issues, that he actually has got no rend.
Yeah.
At
least he's got some mortal wounds. But then again, Nagash doesn't really care.
Yeah, he doesn't. Ranald, I think that was it. That was the streamer's name, Ranald. Well, Charlie.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking us through this. It's been excellent. And look at how we hit the hour mark. Boom. Now, Charlie runs events. You can find out about those events on Warhammer tournaments. He runs events in London. He's running one this weekend, in fact,
Yep.
called the London Open. So if you're somewhere in the south and want to go and find out about those, Charlie, how do I find out about you? I'm going to include it in the show notes. And also, how do I find out about the events that you run?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Colonel Cabbage 1. And I'll tweet out all the stuff there. And you can also go to Warhammer-tournaments, and that's where all our events will be, where you can buy tickets and things like that. London Open should be good. I'm excited. I think we've got 38 players. We've got no Sons of Behemoth
Wow.
at all.
Wow. Is
Yeah.
this because they knew you were doing this? How many Amulets of Destiny is the real question?
Yeah, probably about half. I can't remember exactly.
What?
Yeah. I didn't count them as we went, but I think a lot of the Gargant players moved to Ironjaws.
I think they did as well. I think they did as well.
Yeah. Similar, more damage, probably a bit more fun, more proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of just running 4 dudes onto 3 objectives in the middle, you're taking 2 dudes and you're slamming them that your enemy turn 1, and then you're laughing like a maniac. I know which one I choose, right?
Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah. Sadly, no Beasts of Chaos.
Sad face.
Even though I put an award in there for Best Beasts of Chaos, but I suppose I'm the TO and the other guy's busy. So.
In the world, like
in London at least.
The Beasts of Chaos community is you and him rigging each other. Are you going to this event? No.
It's me and Liam Jordan, right?
Yes.
And Liam's running
War in the Heartlands.
Running War in the Heartlands.
Are you going to that one?
I'm not. No.
Okay, so.
Because I'm working my birthday this weekend. I'm having a birthday weekend next weekend.
Here's your birthday. It's Charlie's birthday on Sunday, so if we want to throw some happy birthdays out to him, then please do, because it's worth it.
And it's yours on Saturday.
Let's not talk about that.
Happy birthday
Let's not
to
talk
you.
about that. Not in front of the YouTube thugs in the Twitch chat. They're all monsters. Right, Charlie, thanks for being on. You've been a delight. Twitch chat, you guys have been hilarious. I particularly liked it when Angle said, leave my arcane tome alone, you slag. Was my favourite YouTube Twitch comment today, I think.
Can we have a little vote in the chat? Amulet too good or not?
We don't. I can't run polls. I'll do that. I'll do it on Twitter. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Twitch chat, you've been fantastic, Brother Scar, MJ, Final Flash, Sheltog, Glittervold. You are great. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to join us tonight for the 40k Spy Center. Join me again tomorrow. I might be doing a list review show. Might not be. You've all been great. Thanks for being honest, Wargamers. See you soon. Bye.